Welcome into Overtime, presented by McDonald's. John Bruce along with Dewey, Dailey for today's episode. John, it's been a little while, but we've come back here. I think it was a 2 or 3 week break we took, but we're back for the winter sports season. We're going to preview girls basketball today, and then next Tuesday we'll talk a little boys basketball. As I think you said, girls starts this Wednesday, and then boys is next Friday, where we will be at Southeastern for them in Waverly. But that's still a little ways away. We're going to talk some girls basketball, but before that, we're going to there's been a fair amount of activity since we last talked to. We didn't really say we were ending on that last one, but it just kind of made sense when we started to look at, which teams were left. And really that Saturday after our last episode, we sort of lost all of our teams. I think Ironton and Wheelersburg football was really all that was left at that point. So we were just going to kind of review everything that happened since the last time we talked to you guys. And I think for the most part, I don't know, we talked a little bit before we've come on air, but it was just how Fairfield Union boys made it to the regional final. Lynchburg Clay boys,
girls.
Lynchburg Clay girls did as well.
They lost to the state champion, which was Cincinnati Country Day.
Yep.
Yeah, for the second straight year. And then South Webster also, they lost the state champion in Worthington Christian. So, a good soccer season for us. Hopefully we'll be able to break through here in the winter. We also had Wheelersburg made it to the regional final in football before losing to Harvest Prep third time in 3 years. Actually, fourth time in 3 years because they lost to them earlier this year too.
Second time this year.
Yeah, so I believe we might be streaming a game that they're playing in down at Shawnee State in a couple weeks. Hopefully, they can beat Harvest Prep then.
Oh, do they play that too?
Yeah, but So one really good thing though.
And we did have Webster and the regional and volleyball. But we had that on live stream. So
we had South Webster girls losing in that last volleyball game. Was the
to Meadowbrook.
Meadowbrook, who made it to the Final Four, obviously.
Meadowbrook sort of been torturing our coverage area for a couple years now, but
so
it's all right.
One thing I want to talk about though, cross country, and in two ways. So since we last filmed, I've been in 13 different states, driving all over the country.
Yep.
But I don't think I ever did it as impressively as Fairfield Union's Andrew Walton. Look at that segue. The junior won the Division II state championship race by 22 seconds. Or 21.7 seconds, actually. I want to be precise. He ran the 3.1, the 5K.
A 5K?
No, it's 10, yeah.
A 10K?
No, it's 5K.
Oh, okay.
Because college is 10K. He ran it in 15 minutes and 15.2 seconds.
15 minutes and 2 seconds?
15 minutes flat, 0.2 tenths of a second. So he averaged a 5-minute mile.
That's crazy.
Actually, that's less than a 5-minute mile because it's 3.1 miles. The Falcons finished third as a team. He finished first, obviously. His teammate, Nathan Phillips, finished 10th to also be All-Ohio. So, big shout out to them as well.
I forgot that, cross country and golf are the ones that, you make All-Ohio strictly on performance.
Yes.
It makes a ton of sense, really.
Yeah, so, and then also Landon Ayer from White Oak finished second in Division III, and Ryan Richendaler finished 7th in Division III. Those are both boys. And then Cameron, I'll just pull it up because I want to make sure I got all of them because it was Sophia Solosi. We've been having fun with that name for a while, from Athens. She finished second, only a sophomore. Anna Conrad from Fairfield Union finished 7th, and Cameron Walker from Unio finished 8th in the girls. So, they're doing a sport. What is it? Our sport is your punishment, your sport's punishment or something.
Sport, right?
And all kudos to them. It is not an easy athletic feat to do what those kids are doing.
I didn't realize it was a 5K each time.
Yeah.
I mean, you have the people doing I feel like they're always called turkey trot or something, like those 5Ks, and that's like a once a year thing, and they're like really proud of it and everything for getting out there and doing that. And you have these guys that are
doing it every day,
doing it every single, maybe not every day,
right.
but like
pretty
close to
they
that.
probably took like a week off. They're probably out running again. Now his time would have been third best, with Division I also, but he would have finished half a second behind second. I bet he would have passed him, because I mean, when you win by almost 22 seconds, I think you probably don't want to ease up, but I think mentally you kind of do a little bit. But yeah, so shout out to those really good and outstanding cross country runners, and shout out to me for not falling asleep while driving.
There we go. Yeah. You did say you tagged on the rumble strips a little bit after you left, but hey,
that was the worst part about that was we filmed our last episode at like 10 in the morning, so it wasn't even
I forgot about that.
So it wasn't even like that one, but the trip to Texas was a little more rambunctious, but it is what it is. Won't be doing that for a while because we got basketball.
Yeah, so we'll talk some basketball. We're going to start with a little TVC. Now, I know really volleyball, soccer. We talked a little TVC with football, mainly Vinton County. But the TVC coverage should come up a little bit for basketball, is with only two. You can count it kind of two sports, because boys and girls for the fall season we had four with football, volleyball, and then boys and girls soccer. So I would say the TVC will get a little more coverage, especially from us,
especially
this
from
time
Carson.
of year, especially from Carson. He's our little TVC beat guy down in Athens. Really, he did a good. Really, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have had a lot of like volleyball stats when we would, or any soccer stuff. Because really, I'd say the only TVC team we even mentioned was Nelsonville, and that's because they won the TVC. What was it? The first time? It was first time in a while.
2012.
2012.
Yeah. Or no, it might have been before that, because it was 2012
I think that was the district.
Yeah, district was 2012, and they had a really good showing they actually had the best showing out of anybody against Meadowbrook.
That's right.
Yeah. So, but we do want to talk about someone from Nelsonville, York, Airah Lavy. Lavy.
There we go.
It's close.
So close.
Yeah. Last year, she was District 13 Player of the Year, averaged 20.1 points a game while leading the Buckeyes to their first outright TVC title since 2005. She has recently signed to play Division I basketball at St. Francis University, I believe in Pennsylvania.
Are there multiple? I thought it was in like Pittsburgh or something.
I think it may be, but there's also one in New York. So but I think hers is the Pennsylvania one. But she's really the main player coming back for Nelsonville, York. But I think if anytime you have a Division I player on your team, you're going to have a chance to maybe repeat what they did last year, and we'll be following along, and I'm sure Carson will get out and cover them a good bit as well. So,
well, and the TVC has had some pretty. I mean, I know I think it was my senior year, so it's been 4 years now. But Vinton County goes to the final. Actually, they went to the championship.
Yeah, went to the championship game.
We all know how that. Right. But how many times did you get to play in the state title game?
Yeah.
I'm assuming that was probably like a private school and whatever.
Oh, it was. That girl she hoop thing I was telling you about.
She hoops.
Yeah.
Ohio. Or
yeah. Their number 3 ranked team was Laurel, which is the team that beat Vinton County, and that was in Division II. So, it's a league that we don't see all that often, because it is very spread out for our area. But man, they have some really good athletes that come through there, and it's just
we had a chance to see Athens last year against Jackson. Now that was the only time,
but they have a lot coming back this year, so I would think that they're probably going to be up there in the running for TVC Ohio Championship. I don't know how Alexander will be this year, but they've had a good program over the last 20 years. So I know their boys are going to be down a little bit, but it's a quality program. So, in Vinton County, I wouldn't think they'd be down for very long. So, we'll kind of see.
All right, so we'll start off with the SVC, and there'll be timestamps in the description below. So if you're looking for a specific league and whatnot, you'll be able to click right to it. But we're going to do SVC, FAC, SOC1, which is still the SOC1. Then we're going to do SOC3, which was formerly the SOC2. And then we'll do the SOC2, which is kind of a congregate of some of the SOC1, SOC1 and smaller SOC2 teams, and then like South Galley has joined as well. And then the SHAC 1, SHAC 2, MSL-OVC, and then that will do it. And then we'll follow that same pattern once on next Tuesday for the boys.
And you know, there are girls' games starting on Wednesday. Then there's some on Saturday, and I know at least one team plays on Sunday. So whenever we come back together on Monday, we'll do a quick review of the opening week, as league play will start next week for girls, at least in the SVC. And then we will kind of go from there.
Pretty much replace today's fall review with sort of the first week of the girls.
Yeah, so we're gonna go one show a week for the winter. So it's probably gonna be a little longer show than what we had later in the year.
I would say down, especially down the stretch for especially like the football shows. But any tournament time, it was like, you know, if we got to an hour, we were kind of lucky. But these, you know, and I'll say this, and this will be like an hour, but you know, hour and a half probably each time. But you know, we'll see. We're going to try to get a little more in depth for each team, as we're covering less than we were in the fall.
Right.
So,
yeah, we go from 4 to 6 sports to 2. Yeah,
because you even have cross country, golf, all that stuff as well. So
so I'll take the SVC as SVC Sports Talk. RIP. But
are you done with it?
I'm still doing the website, but not the SVC Sports Talk podcast, which was like 350 episodes.
There's a bunch.
Yeah. And people probably stopped tuning in once I came on. But last year's winner was Unioto. They went 25-1. They were the district champions. If you want to go back on YouTube to watch an instant classic and hear Dewey's fantastic call at the end of the game get ruined by somebody. So they beat Sheridan on, they're down 15 going into the fourth quarter, and you know, then they go and ran into Fairland, and that, as we'll talk about in the OVC preview, that didn't go well for a whole lot of teams last year to run into Fairland. So, but this year's team to beat, I would say Unioto again. They return all 5 starters. They did graduate 3 bench players, but you know, they have really their top player off the bench coming back, and then they also were able to benefit from a player coming in. So Miley Smith, she was 13 All-Ohio last year as a freshman, 14.7 points a game, 7.7 rebounds, 3.5 assists, and 3 steals a game. She did a little bit of everything for the Shermans, especially down the stretch, as I believe she had 21 in the regional game against Fairland, but also she had 31 points and 18 rebounds. And she also had a steal that set up the game-winning basket that, once again, she scored in that district championship game. So, Miley Smith, she's a big-time prospect, you know, is a big-time player as well. Then senior Amaris Betts, 14 points a game last year, 3.1 steals per game. She made 59 threes, shooting 41% from three-point range, which is pretty incredible with, you know, there were a couple games where it was like she was just shooting free throws because some people weren't guarding her as close. But that opens up things a lot for Miley Smith and our next player here in a second, that you have someone that shoots it at such a high ability from the outside. Betts was special mention All-Ohio a year ago. She'll likely get to the 1,000-point mark, I would say, pretty early in the season.
I've never understood what the difference between honorable mention and special mention is.
So in basketball, special is higher. Now,
what's the point?
I don't know. Like, just make a fourth team. Just make a fourth team if you're going to do it.
Yeah, like something.
Yeah, it's never like. See, you didn't even know what the difference was. So, what's the point of having the two things different?
Honorable mention, second honorable mention, third honorable mention. I mean, might as well just make a tier of every single player.
Right. So then our next player, Amelia Urig, who just signed with Marietta to continue her career for. Coming up, she had 8.2 points a game, 7.7 rebounds a game. She was honorable mention All-Ohio. Alexis Book, who is signed with Ohio University to play softball, 8.4 points a game, assists and 3 steals a game last year, and it was night and day for her getting off the ball, not having to deal with running the show the whole time. You could just see how talented of a player she was, and really had a breakout season for them. Was really good all along the season, but one of the better defenders in our area, just on the ball, is very quick hands. And then their last starter coming back is Magnolia Holbert, 7.4 points a game, 3 assists, 3 steals a game. She was really big in the district tournament for them last year. Only a sophomore. The other 3 starters are seniors. And then you have Abby Marshall, who comes off the bench for them, a senior that just gives them really good minutes athletically. And then Maya Hamilton is a junior this year for the Shermans. As a freshman, she averaged 11.7 points a game at Eastern Brown, and then she tore her ACL last year, missed an entire year, and then this year is now at Uniota, and that's going to be.
Is her sister? Did she graduate? Her older sister?
I don't know. Like now, I don't know if that's her sister or not.
Oh, is it
I thought it was, but.
Especially at like a school like Fairfield where it's smaller, you think if they have the same last now, obviously it was like Smith or something.
Right.
Like that could go either way.
So I would say there's some sort of relation, but no, Hannah Hamilton is still at Fairfield. Yeah. So yeah, with those 7 players, the big thing for Uniota is going to be to find who can fill in that 8-9 spot. I mean, they've got Aiden Dannison, who was the soccer SVC Player of the Year. Jade Stewart came back out this year. He's another really talented athlete. So they've got some pieces. It's just, can they kind of put them all together and make another big run? They've upped their non-league schedule a big time. So that's, a big thing for them. Now, some impact players to watch across the league. Last year's SVC Player of the Year, Emma Garrison, is a senior now. 16.7 points a game last year, 6.7 rebounds a game, 3.3 assists per game. She was over 2 steals a game as well. She kind of is a stat sheet stuffer.
There you go.
Yeah, I didn't cuss. So, for an Adina team that, I mean, really, with what some of these teams have coming back in Division III, I think they're not Portsmouth, and maybe not North Adams, but I think they're probably in the running with, a Menford and maybe even North Adams for maybe the second best team in Division III in the Southeast District. So with Emma Garrison, you got Kiara Williams. Those are both 4-year starters coming back. They have some nice talent in their program. Coach Day's done a really good job with them. Sydney Ader's another starter coming back. It's just they have a lot of talent coming back from last year's team that was very good, and they're going to have a hard time with Uniota. But I think I would be shocked if they lost a league game besides Uniota, because they're very talented. And I know it's just a preview, but the way they moved the ball on offense the other day was super impressive. So I look forward to watching them here in the next couple weeks. Another impact player, Gabby Purnell from Southeastern, 13.5 points a game. She was second in the league and made threes. Does a really good job for them running the point. Morgan Ware is another player for Southeastern. Allie Baker was the star of the preview the other day. She had 14 points in the first quarter, and just I don't think any of her shots hit anything but the bottom of the net. Her and Emma Henshaw give Huntington a nice 1-2 punch, as they're a well-coached team. Karis Dye, a sophomore, her sister graduated and is playing at Muskingum now. So, and obviously if you know the SVC, you know the Dye last name at this point with Bay Valley. She's a player.
Is her dad Corey?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So, just a nice player. Piketon's got a nice group of young players coming into the program. Westfall's got some nice young talent as well. So it'll be, I would say 3 through 8 will be pretty tight most nights. I think it's Uniota, then Adina, and then kind of go from there. So
Henshaw had that big shot against Paint Valley at Huntington last year. That was, I think we had a ton of buzzer beaters last year. It's kind of crazy. I think Off the top of my head, I could think of 3, but there may have been a 4th one.
And we were so close to having buzzer beaters in football.
Yeah,
we just kept missing those 2-point conversions.
2-point conversions and game-winning touchdowns just wouldn't happen. All right, so we'll look now to the FAC. Last year's winner was Jackson. They go undefeated in the FAC. However, outside of the league, they go 5-8.
It was our fault.
I was going to get to that. They go 0-3 when we live stream. So
yeah,
we'd have to talk to. I feel like their coach was always pretty cool with us.
He was cool with it.
I think it was after that Athens game. We'll have to ask him if he wants us to come or if he just wants us to stay away, because we seemed like we were.
I told him we would try to find a good game for him to get to,
because we watched him lose to Adina, which I know was a 2-point game, but it really wasn't that close.
Yeah.
I think it was Davis hit that like half-court shot at the end to cut it to 3, and then they lost to Cincinnati. Did they play Cincinnati Country Day at the Winter Hoops Classic down at Eastern Brown? I think they did.
I know we did a game with Country Day playing.
Right, and I think it was Jackson, and they lost, whoever it was, and then we watched them lose to Athens in the sectional final. So it wasn't a great year for Jack. It was a great year for him, but not when we were there. So hopefully, if we get a chance to see him this year, the tides switch a little bit. But they're bringing back 4 All-FAC members, one of them the Player of the Year, and T.J. Carpenter. You bring back Maddie Walburn, Sydney Hughes, and Kinsey Davis. You also bring back Sydney Carpenter, who wasn't honored on the All-FAC team, but a great soccer player.
Yes.
We've obviously seen what she can do on the hardwood. Now, they did lose their final 3 games of the season, including that 52-43 loss to Athens in the sectional final, but especially within the FAC, I just don't see how they don't repeat, especially with what they're bringing back, and with with Chillicothe, you lose Harding, and then I can't remember the girl's name for Miami Trace, but you lose her as well, and I know she was one of the better players in the league. Hillary Jacobs, so you lose her, and then Hillsborough and McLean and
Courthouse
kind of Court of Down anyway. So I think Jackson repeats. It's more so, are they going to be able to get a little further in the tournament now? I'm not ruling out any of these other teams in the FAC, but especially for Chillicothe, we'll get into these other impact players around the league. They have a big hole to fill. So you lose Harding, which didn't win FAC Player of the Year last year, but won it the year before that, and may have won it a year before.
Right,
she was a great player for them. I'm kind of, when I was looking at it, I was kind of surprised. Almost by default, I was going to put that Chillicothe lost the FAC Player of the Year, and I saw Carpenter won it. But they have some. Now I know they have some players. I know Archer was big for them last year. I think Avery Cox plays as well.
They're going to have some athletes,
right?
But
it's Chillicothe. You're always going to have the players. It's just, and you have a good coach as well. So
when you lose that much scoring, it's just you got to find a way to replace it, and kind of like in Moneyball, like you're not trying to find one player to do it. You got to find multiple players to do it.
I mean, it's kind of like with Basie at Huntington a couple of years ago. They've done a pretty decent job filling that up, and even like with Peebles, I forget the girl's name that they graduated and scored like 2,500 points.
Yeah.
But now they kind of got lucky as they had Peyton Johnson just coming right up. But some big shoes to fill at Chillicothe. Some other players around the FAC at Miami Trace, we talked about how they lost Hillary Jacobs. Jessie Stewart, sort of the last woman standing for them, especially in terms of the All-FAC. This is kind of what it was based on, was players remaining on the All-FAC list. And then for Hillsborough, a junior, Blake Herdman, she averaged 13 points and 7 rebounds a game for a Hillsborough team that went 4-19, 2-8 in the FAC. Without looking, I'm assuming both of those wins were against Courthouse. But with a player like her,
I know they lost to Courthouse in the tournament. I think they might have split with Courthouse and McLean.
Oh, okay, that's what it was. So, I mean, I would expect them to be a little better than 4-19. I mean, Herdman's just going to be a year older. I think she had like a buzzer beater or something last year, because I think we posted it on Twitter. But she's a player I would look out for, especially when you look to the All-FAC list at the end of the year. And I maybe not contending for the league, but I would say Hillsborough should be a little bit better than 4-19.
Yeah, they were really young last year.
But we'll see. Season's right around the corner, so we'll see how the Indians are.
Yeah, well, it'll be tomorrow, right? When this gets released.
I don't know if Hillsborough's playing. But.
Right. But moving on to the SOC 1, we think.
The smallest.
Yeah, we believe it's going small to big on the numbers. I haven't seen anything official, but just looking at a couple different places, it's been like the small division is going to be SOC1, the big division is going to be SOC3. Let's assume the middle is going to be SOC2, but we'll see. Last year's winner and the winner of a lot of previous games was Portsmouth Notre Dame. They went 24-3, the regional runner-up last year. Once again, this is using last year's SOC1 winner. So
the
like
SOC1 remained the same.
Yeah, just a couple teams moved up.
Yeah, New Boston, did they move out?
No, they're still in. Western and Sims Valley moved out.
Okay. So they were the biggest of the small.
Yes.
Essentially.
Now there's a couple things. Ironton St. Joe does not have a team this year. They were not able to.
I mean, not that surprising. I mean,
it's such a small school, and for them to be as good as they are in athletics is really impressive for how small of a school it really is. I would say this year's team to beat, shockingly, Notre Dame. 118 consecutive conference wins, 8 straight seasons with 20 or more wins. I mean, they're only playing 22 games in a regular season, so that's putting together most of those seasons. Now, one thing to look for, one of our media colleagues, Matt Payton, is actually taking over as the interim coach. At this point, he was put in place, I believe sometime last week. So he's been there for the last few years. So I think they'll still be in good shape, but it is going to be a little different for them to at least start the year. So that's one thing to look for with the Titans. Now, players for them: Gracie Ashley, 10.6 points per game last year, 5.5 rebounds a game. I believe she was special mention All-Ohio. Was really an outstanding player for them throughout the year. Really good volleyball player, too. Ella Kirby, who's signed with Wilmington, 9.3 points a game, 2.3 steals, 53 made threes, 34% from three-point range. Her shot is wonderful. They played at Southeastern last year. A lot of stuff happened that night, but one thing, not the thing I remember the most from that night, but was just, thank you, trainers. Was just how Ella Kirby's shot looked once it got off her hand. So, really impressive by her. Wilmington's going to get a good one there. I always want to say the Hurricane, but I know they are not. They are the Quakers for the college. So then Katie Strickland, 7.9 points per game, 4.0 rebounds per game. She had
4.0.
I don't know why I said it. I used to have a 4.0 in grad school. I don't have any more.
How many assists per game does Annabelle Ball average?
3.
3.0. 3.0 assists per
I hate you so much. So Katie Strickland had the game-winning shot or basket for them in the regional semifinal. I'm going to stomp on your foot. And then you had Annabelle Ball. She averaged 5.3 points and 3 assists a game for them a season ago. So, I think Notre Dame's got, kind of comfortably on this. Now, here's something that we kind of talked about in the fall. Sometimes you don't see a lot of stats on some of these teams. Sophia Kraft for Clay, I know, is a solid returner for them. Outside of that, I mean, Green had a couple players that were all SOC, but I can't verify that they're coming back. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just the rosters aren't updated on the max preps, and so it's kind of difficult with some of these things. So I would think you've got Notre Dame is going to be the leader in the clubhouse for the first SOC1 title, the new one,
post merger.
Yeah, but I know Clay's a well coached team. It's just these are Glenwood lost some valuable players. Cadence Williams, was outstanding for them last year. And then Dylan O'Rourke was as well. So they didn't have a whole lot of kids out last year, so it's going to be tough for them. But yeah, so should be a competitive league in the SOC1. But I would take Notre Dame.
All right, so we'll go to the SOC3. We're kind of out of order a little bit, but I probably should have taken the SOC too, but just so we can stay in order.
Well, I put it together. But that's me.
We'll jump around. So we're going to the former SOC 2, now the SOC 3. So the winner last year, and really the final SOC 2 winner of the old conference. Yes. Portsmouth West, they got in their last opportunity to technically do so, their first ever SOC 2 title for the girls.
That night was so much fun.
Oh,
that
West.
Crowd was great.
Oh, yeah. That's the first time I've ever been that.
Who was it?
Gym.
What player was it that was like tripping over our wire and stuff in the back?
Higgins.
T. Higgins, yeah.
T. Higgins.
That's why he's not been playing for the Bengals so much this year.
His back is all messed up and his knees because he's tripping on our wires. But Portsmouth West, 25-2, 15-1 in the SOC 2. Weirdly enough, their only loss was to Waverly, which was kind of odd because Waverly was, I think, in the
middle
bottom
of the pack.
half-ish. Yeah. They may have been a little bit further to the top than I remember. They did have the SOC. Man, did they do SOC 1 and 2 Player of the Years? Or is it, so they had the SOC 2 Player of the Year in Bailey Volgamore.
Yeah.
So, whatever their record showed probably wasn't a great representation of how good they were. But the problem for West is just how much they're losing, right? You bring back MSL, which I think they do Defensive Player of the Year, and I think she was that for them. But you lose Lexi Deaver, McDermott, Howard, and Howell. So those are 4 of their 5 starters right there. So you're losing 4 of them. For the team to beat, like, I kind of want to just pick Wheelersburg because, I don't know, they just always find a way to compete. Now, unless I know, so like for volleyball, it was kind of easy because like I knew how good Webster was, but like for Wheelersburg, like I know South Webster will be okay, and we'll get into that here in a minute. I'm gonna go Wheelersburg for my team to beat. They went to the Final Four last year, which you graduate Walker, Whitaker, Rucker, Kennard. I know Macy Eaton didn't make any of the all-league teams, but like she's still a big piece for them. I know Mia Vastine is back. Off the top of my head, I can't think of many other players coming back for them.
I just saw something where it was like no seniors, 2 juniors, but it's a sophomore class that I believe it said they had never lost. So
like that 2023 class, especially on the girls' side, and we're talking about Wheelersburg, so like a class that is just insane for them. I mean that says a lot about that team, and really, I mean you lose to West twice in the regular season, then you beat them in the what was it, a regional
final, yeah.
So I mean they came back, they go to the Final Four.
They had a really good showing at the Final Four too.
Yeah,
like they were. It was weird because we had 2 teams there. One was there, seemingly knew they had a good chance to win it, and then kind of fell short. And then I think Wheelersburg was, I don't
think anybody.
They weren't happy to be there, but they were. It was kind of a surprise to be there, and they just played their tails off and competed.
And I don't think the games against West were in the regular season were necessarily close. I mean, I think especially the second time, it was like a double-digit. It was close. I mean, it was competitive, but towards the end, when you start fouling, it starts to get away from you a little bit. Now, I know I picked Wheelersburg as the team to beat, but I'm going this isn't kind of how we're structuring it, but I'm just going to go ahead and pick my league winner, and hopefully this doesn't turn into a Fayetteville Perry volleyball pick, which I don't think
I don't think this one will.
I think this is a little safer. I'm picking Memphis to win the league this year. Right, they go 15-9, 11-5 in the SOC 2 last year. They finished 3rd. Now, they didn't graduate a single senior, right? So they didn't even have I don't know what they did for senior night. They probably just didn't have it. They may have had, I guess you don't have cheerleaders for girls, so they probably just didn't have one. In terms of the all SOC, you bring back Lexi Consul.
They probably did parent night.
Parent night?
Yeah, celebrate your parents.
Yeah, I mean,
why not?
They're going to be upset when they don't get celebrated this year because they do have one.
Have one senior.
They have one that hopefully is able to help healthily have a healthy season.
Yes.
But in terms of the all SOC, Lexi Conkle averaged 10.3 points per game. Lindsey Williams was 10 points per game, 8.5 rebounds. Maggie Reisner was 7 points, 5 rebounds. Now, those were just the all-SOC members. Marley Pendleton didn't make a list, but averaged 8.5 points and 6 rebounds, which I'm not really sure how she didn't make all-SOC when some people didn't have as good as numbers as she did. And they also get back Kennedy Davis, who is going to be the lone senior, had an ACL injury last year, so she wasn't able to play. And I mean, who knows if they have her? Maybe they're a little bit better than 3rd. Now, they lost to West They lost to West and Berg twice, and then I'm assuming it was probably Waverly who they lost their extra game to. I can't remember off the top of my head, but
so I was at Waverly at Minford, and the power went out. Some other stuff happened. I don't remember anything about the game besides it was close. As Bailey Volgamore got fouled on a 3 late when they were down 3, and they called it a 2, and she was very clearly behind the line, and it was just a really bad call. But so that was a really tight game there. So I would guess the game at Waverly would have been really tight as well.
But like I said, I do want to pick Minford. They were really young last year and finished 3rd. They all just got a year older. Plus, you're going to get Davis back with Conkle, Williams, Reisner, and Pendleton. And I'm even leaving some players out that contributed as well. So I think Minford has a good, I wouldn't even consider it an outside shot. I think they have a pretty solid shot at competing this year.
Cronin's the other starter for last year.
Well. And then some other impact players from around the league. We talked about Sarah already. She's she is sort of the main returner for them, so she'll have to lead that team even more so than she has in years past. Bella Claxon and Skylar Zimmerman. I was hesitant to mention them just because of how much we talked about them in volleyball, but Zimmerman was over 15 points per game, and Claxon was a member of the All-SOC league team last year. Then Mia Vastine for Wheelersburg, another mention, and then I'm assuming it's Karis Reisner for Waverly, the only returning SOC2 all-league honoree for them outside of I said returning, but she was the only one in general besides Volgamore who was player of the year, so I think she could have a good year for them as well. So SOC3, I'm picking Minford, and hopefully that pans out a little bit better than the Fayetteville pick did.
I think it's a little safer than the Fayetteville pick. So moving on to the SOC medium or SOC2, no league winner last year. So this is the first year. I would say the team to beat is going to be the South Gaia Rebels.
I didn't know that was their mascot.
Yeah, it's pretty much is like Yosemite Sam with his big mustache. Yeah, I don't know how their girls teams are, if they have the big mustache on there. But they went 22-4 last year. They were the co-champions of the TVC Hawking. They were the district champions. They beat Waterford. And if you know anything about Division IV girls basketball, if you beat Waterford in the tournament, you are very good. And so they ended up losing to Berlin Highland in the regionals, but had a really good season last year. Graduated 0 seniors. Now they return with Morgan Lions. They do have someone's injured. So I don't know who. I've just seen someone's injured. So I'm going to just go with what I know, which is what they got coming back. So Morgan Lions, 17 points a game last year, 7.3 rebounds per game, 2.7 assists per game, and then 3.7 steals per game. She was second team All-Ohio. I feel like that deserves a shout out. Be a player to watch for. Then they also had Emma Clary, 13.8 points a game, 6.6 rebounds per game, 3.3 assists per game. I believe she got a mention on one of the All-Ohio lists as well. Tommy Triplett.
That's awesome.
Yeah, 10.5 points per game, 4.6 rebounds per game, 4.3 assists per game. She made 35 threes on 37% shooting. Macy Sanders, 10 points a game last year. She only played in 7 games, so that could be the injured player. But I know that she's on the roster for this year, so I would think that she'll be a contributor for them. And then Madison Summers, 6.8 points per game and 4 rebounds per game. I believe she was a freshman last year for the Rebels. But like I said, the TVC Hawking is a very strong league, as Waterford, Eastern typically make deep tournament runs out of that league. So if you can win that, especially on your way out for South Gaia, I'm sure they were celebrating all the way to the SOC2. They're my favorite. They were on that She Hoop Ohio list. They were, I think it was South Gaia. It was Gaia spelled wrong, right?
Galea.
Yeah, Galea. They were ranked 5th on their list for out of the top 10 in Division 4. So I think that's going to be a team to beat for sure. And then an impact player, Desiree Simpson from Sims Valley. She averaged 11 points per game last year. I would guess that she was probably close to double-double because when I saw her down at Glenwood, she had an outstanding overall game for them, just a really good athlete. But a couple of the other players that I saw that night for Sims Valley aren't on the roster. So that kind of, that kind of makes that a little tougher. Hopefully we'll get some more stuff out of the SOC 1 and 2 this year. But look for South Gallia. And then also for Sims Valley, look for Desiree Simpson.
I feel like with a name like Tommy Triplett, you have to be just outstanding.
You got to be a shooter. Yeah.
You have to be. And I was glad to see she's 37%, 35 last year. That's awesome. All right, so we'll look now to the SHAC 1. This is the bigger SHAC. However, there were some changes that I didn't realize would carry over to basketball. It's Peebles and Fairfield flipping around. So last year's winner, North Adams, they go 25-1, 14-0 in the league. District champs, I can't remember if they lost in the regional semifinal, but had that big
Emissary got him.
Oh yeah,
she got the steal.
Yep, I remember now. They lost down at Logan.
Yeah, they had kind of the same way they lost as they won the district.
Yeah, they had a 10-point comeback against Fairfield.
Check it out on SOSA's YouTube page.
That was a sweet game.
Yeah,
we had 2 10-point comebacks that day. Portsmouth over West over Portsmouth, which was second. And then that was a pretty interesting.
That was a good day.
Down there, but. You know, it's hard not to pick North Adams again. They did lose a little bit. You lose Laney Ruckle and Keaton Hupp, but you're bringing back Kinley Jones. She was all league, and then you also have Harley Brand, Tatum Grooms, and Caitlin Borger. And you know, especially I think with Fairfield now in the SHAC too. I think I don't want to downgrade Peebles any, but I think the path to another SHAC 1 title is a little more in play than it was. Now, you can take that however you want. Now you have to play Peyton Johnson twice a season instead of once. So, you know, I wouldn't want to play her once. Now you got to play her an extra game.
Yeah.
And then I think, especially for volleyball, it really wasn't the case in soccer, but, for volleyball, the problem with the SHAC is just how poorly they played outside of the SHAC. I really don't think that's the case in basketball as much, and we're going to get a look at especially North Adams in the regular season. As they have games against Miami Trace, Menford, West, and Webster, so mostly SOC, now SOC 3 teams. So we'll get to see sort of how they look against teams that we're a little more familiar with, and it'll help us get a look towards the tournament when we start comparing teams. Some other players in the SHAC 1, I will say, I'm picking North Adams, but I think Lynchburg Clay could, if there was Lynchburg Clay or North Adams is going to win the SHAC 1. It's going to be one of those two teams. I think it'll be North Adams, but if it's going to be somebody else, it'll be Lynchburg. Addison West, Jade Massey, and Macy Etienne all averaged over 12 points per game last year. They're all coming back. I expect them to be very competitive with North Adams. We only got to see them once last year. And that was against Miami Trace,
Jade Massey went ballistic.
Did Miami Trace win, or did
Lynchburg won?
Lynchburg won that. That was I have no recollection of that.
Because I was a jinx for pretty much all FAC teams because whenever I saw Miami Trace last year, they did not win.
Did you go to the North Adams Miami Trace game? I remember you did because I know they didn't win that one either.
Yeah, it was like every game I went to, something happened badly. Like that North Adams game, I think it was like a 16-0 run after they were up like 12.
It's a good thing you didn't go to the Rock Hill Chili game down at
Rio.
That was one of the higher scoring games we had that year. It was like 77-77 at the end of the game, and it went into OT.
Now I'm glad you said the higher scoring. If you want to see points, watch Lynchburg Clay. They play fast. They have a bunch of kids that can shoot it.
Well, you have 3 players averaging over 12.
Yeah.
So you don't get that a whole lot.
Right. And they are, I think defensively that could be the difference between them and North Adams, but man, they can really put up points.
Yeah. And then just some other players. I already talked about Peyton Johnson. She was over 23 points per game last year. Really, if we're going to try to pick, especially with Leonard gone from Eastern, who I'm not really sure what they're going to do this year.
Right.
With Leonard gone, I don't see how Johnson doesn't get. They don't call it Player of the Year. I think it's just Athlete of the Year.
Yeah.
If she does what she's been doing, I don't see how she doesn't get it. Cause
I think she won it as a sophomore, didn't she?
Did she?
I think she did.
I just know last year she didn't. And then Cadence Carroll, also another big part of that Peebles team. We had a chance to see them in Menford last year.
You were in great shape that day.
That was not a good day. And then Ashla Staton plays for West Union. We don't get to cover them a whole lot. She was over 11.5 points per game last year, member of the All-SHAC team, so look out for her when you're playing West Union. But yeah, for the SHAC, I think North Adams repeats, but I don't think Lynchburg Clay makes it very easy for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree with that. Now we're going to go to the SHAC 2, which was wild last year.
I didn't realize White Oak won.
Yeah.
Or that they tied.
They tied. So last year's winners, White Oak, who went 14-10, they were sectional champions, and Peebles, who went 13-10. They each were 7-6 in SHAC play. Third place.
Not too many times you get league winner with 6 league losses.
Yeah. Third place was Fayetteville Perry, who went 6-7. Like it was crazy. Like I didn't realize how crazy it really was. Now, one thing that may have impacted White Oak in a way was I believe it was Kylie Ham had to sit the second half of the year as a transfer. Yeah.
You know where she came from? No. I didn't know if it was maybe somewhere
Hamilton.
local. Jeez.
You're welcome. So I think I will take White Oak as my team to beat on this. They're led by Dailey Parr, 12.3 points a game, 49 made threes, 5.4 rebounds per game. Then you had Kylie Ham with 8.5 points per game, 6.2 rebounds per game. Darby Yeager, 6.7 points per game, 9.5 rebounds per game, and a couple blocks per game. Lydia Carr, 6.1 points per game, 5.8 rebounds a game, and Addison Roberts. The Wildcats didn't lose any seniors from a year ago, so I think they're the pick to repeat. Yeah. Now, it won't be easy because, as you mentioned, Fairfield has moved down into the SHAC 2, and if Faith Donnelly can do...
she sort of has the reins to herself now.
Yeah.
McGee graduated, and what was the girl's name before? They graduated 2 years ago. It was like Emma Fitch or something.
Fouch.
Oh, Emma
Yeah,
Fouch.
because, yeah. So if she can make the jump that Peyton McGee did going from the number 2 to the number 1, I think Fairfield may have a chance to win it, though, because Donnelly is a super competitive athlete. She averaged 12 points a game last year, 3.7 assists per game, 3.3 steals per game, a really good on-ball defender, can knock down some shots, can really score for them. So I think she's going to be a player to watch for them. They do graduate a lot, though, so especially with Peyton McGee, who was, I believe, second team All-Ohio. They also have Hannah Hamilton coming back, 6.1 points per game, 4.8 rebounds per game. Riley Quickle's back for them. I believe she got hurt last year. They've got some good young athletes. It's just, are they going to be able to put it together quick enough to be able to overtake White Oak? It's pretty crazy because if you look back about probably 5 to 10 years ago, that whole run for White Oak was not good. And now, they have a chance to win back-to-back SHAC championships. Now, another couple players to watch, Riley Kleemeyer, I'm going to go with, from Fayetteville. 9.1 points per game, 5.6 rebounds a game last year. And then Reagan Wyckoff from Manchester, 9.6 points per game and 3.4 steals per game. The cool thing is, like, whenever I was looking through the SVC leaders, there wasn't very many that were in double figures. And then you look at the SHAC, and it's just a bunch of people in double figures because they can really score the ball in SHACtion. And that's one of the reasons why
I'm excited.
Yeah.
We got to get, I know it wouldn't make a ton of sense because it's just one game when 2 SHAC teams are playing each other, and we really don't get that whole lot. We got to get, SHACtion merch or something.
Yeah, and then if we do that, then Jacob, Frontier League, Prospect League.
What are we doing?
Announcer of the year.
Yeah,
Broadcaster of the year. Jacob Wise needs to make us a thing that
the
just
SHACtion logo
shoots out at the screen in 3D and says SHACtion.
Maybe just a play on Maction, but I'm very proud of that.
Yes,
the one thing I thought of that nobody else did.
Yeah, so we're gonna try to get down to some games. There's some SHAC teams in action on Saturday. Sorry, we're not going to be there. at Manchester. That's going to I think there's 6 games at Manchester.
They do a bunch of
showcase type of games. Yeah. So there's a lot of games down at Manchester. If you're not a college football fan, make sure you check that out on Saturday. We won't be there. I might get there for the last 2 games just because Manchester's less than an hour and a half for me from there. So West versus Lynchburg is the kind of the big game there.
West Union or Portsmouth West?
Portsmouth West.
Oh, I thought it was SHAC only. They're having other teams. So say that again, Portsmouth West and Lynchburg? That'd be a good game.
5 o'clock, yeah. Because I originally had put that as one of our possible streaming games. Then I realized that the Buckeyes and Michigan were going to play a pretty big game.
That wasn't a great day to schedule a show. What time is the first game? Don't tell me it's at noon.
No, it's actually a little earlier.
Oh my gosh, really?
Fairland plays during that game on Saturday.
That's tough. I don't. You guys.
So there's a thing. There's a thing at
awareness when you're scheduling.
Cincinnati Sycamore, which is what Union's playing Hugh Wright's Wayne in. I was talking to Coach Miller the other day at the SBC preview, and I was like, "What time do you play on Saturday?" He goes, "No, we don't play on Saturday. So we play on Sunday." He said when they got asked, he said, "I'm not playing Saturday. Put me anytime on Sunday against anybody." So we'll play anybody, just not on Saturday.
Yeah.
And
they got Wayne.
They got Wayne at 11.
I would rather play Sunday at 11 than Saturday
at noon. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be at the donut shop, so.
Are you?
Yeah.
Oh, man, I might have to come get some donuts.
I'll be there and watching it on my phone.
Power off the electric, so you guys... Are you going to be there the whole time?
I'll probably get out of there around 2 or 2:30, so
pretty much.
Hopefully, catch the last quarter and a half, maybe. I'll be watching it on my phone, so I'll be okay.
Nobody get donuts on Saturday, so he doesn't have to keep making them.
No, I'm not going to say that. All right.
Oh, I'll just unplug the generator.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Just we had a car this has been a little while. Well, no, this isn't recent. There was a car that rammed into the side of the building.
Did they want donuts that bad?
Well, they fell asleep or something.
Yeah.
It was it may have been 2 summers ago. It's been a little while, but it did nothing to the building. The car got whacked.
Because the building's been there since what, 1920?
1929.
Yeah. The original Krispy Kreme.
Absolutely.
Chillicothe, Ohio. Something, Northbridge Street. Or it's still Northbridge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, Northbridge, I forget. I think it's 58 or 85 maybe.
Yeah, it's something.
It's 58
Just look for the donut shop. It's delicious.
All right, so we'll go to our last 2 leagues here. I'll start with the MSL, the Mid-State League. This is the Buckeye. I think there's a Cardinal. There might be another one. I'm not sure. But
Brown Bear.
Brown Bear?
I'm just...
All right. But the MSL Buckeye, last year's winner was Taze Valley. They go 17-8, 11-3, which, once again, you don't see very many league champs with 3 losses. Mm-hmm. But they do win the league. I'm picking them as my team to beat as they didn't graduate anybody. They're bringing everyone back. Sort of a farewell tour for the Vikings as they're headed to the OCC in 2020. They'd be the 2024-2025 season once basketball rolls around again. Them and Logan are headed to the OCC. But for Taze, you're bringing back Alyssa Horsley and Kennedy Yonkin. They were both all MSL first team. They're both back for their senior seasons. Abby Tier was on second team. She's also back for her senior year. And then Gabrielle Watkins, another senior player to keep an eye on. She was labeled honorable mention in the MSL last season. They have the coach of the year in Trevor Yonkin. So I think they have, when you don't lose anybody and you're bringing back the coach of the year, it obviously depends on what other teams are doing. Now, I do think Bloom Carroll has a chance to be competitive once again, as is the case in most sports for Bloom. You're bringing back Emily Bratton. She was a senior. She actually got her second straight, so back-to-back player of the years for her. Marissa Wilkinson was also another senior that was on the first team All-MSL. So, I think Bloom Carroll's competitive once again, but when you have a team that doesn't graduate anybody and they win the league, all things point to them repeating. So I think Taze does that. Now, obviously, Taze not really one of our coverage area teams in the MSL. It's mostly Circleville, Logan Elm, and then Fairfield Union, and I know Liberty Union will get some coverage, and really Bloom does as well. But Taze sort of the odd man out there in terms of our purposes. Now, some other players in the MSL, Ellie Lewis, she she's a senior now at Fairfield Union, one of our players to watch out for on the list that dropped like an hour before us recording this. View that at your own discretion, because
yes,
SOSA Overtime and SOSA 2 brands, we don't claim what they put out. This is our list, that's theirs. Gabby McConnell, a great player for Circleville, and then Kiana Ingram, a sophomore for Logan Elm, was one of the, I think she may have been the only freshman on any of the All-MSL teams. Made All-MSL second team as a freshman at Logan Elm. Logan Elm went 3-19, didn't win a single MSL game. With a player like Ingram, obviously only going to get better as she goes up in age. Now a sophomore, I don't know what else Logan Elm has coming back or coming up is in the 9th grade class, but I would assume they're going to be a little bit better than 3-19. They'll maybe even potentially win an MSL game or two. But for the MSL, Taze, I just don't see how they don't repeat. I think Bloom Carroll could give them a bit of a run. I know for Circleville they graduated. I forget her first name, but Blakeman. I think it was Hannah Blakeman. No. Emily Blakeman.
No, it was an M.
M? Oh, Maddie.
Maddie
Blakeman? That's her younger sister.
Either Maddie's back or graduated.
I think Maddie's the younger one. Morgan Blakeman.
Yes, she's the one. Yes.
She graduated.
And their dad is now the coach at St. Trace.
Girls? Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that. But, we'll see how Bigham regroups over there. I'm assuming he's still...
Yeah, they'll still be solid, with Circleville. But I think with Logan Elm, one of the big things is they, sometimes, like, you don't normally see it in schools that are like Division II size. Like Division IV, you see it a little more often, but sometimes you just don't have athletes. And Logan Elms went through a pretty decent spell of that, at least athletes playing basketball. It looks like they've got some of their better athletes back out for basketball. So that's where you're going to see some wins coming back for them. I do think Emily Bratton missed some time last year. So that could be a difference in the top of the MSL. We'll see, but I think the MSL teams are going to be trying to take down Taze since they're leaving after this year. So to try to keep them from,
spoil the farewell tour.
Yes.
Who was it that, was it Coach K that lost his final? Well, I guess they lost in the tournament. But he lost his final regular season game against UNC, wasn't he? Yeah, that was delightful. Funny. That was
the
awesome.
Best.
All right, John, let's wrap it up with the Ohio Valley Conference.
The OVC, last year's winner, Fairland Dragons, 27-1. They went undefeated throughout the regular season and most of the tournament until they ran into a really deep athletic team in the state semis, which they ended up losing that game kind of sizably, actually. But Fairland, they did graduate Tommy Hinkle, who's at Tiffin now. And this is something we discussed before. Right now, I still have them as my team to beat. Mm-hmm. And I'll talk about another team here coming up. They were ranked number 2 in that She Hoops, Ohio. Yeah. They returned Bree Allen, going to Tiffin, 13.4 points a game, 6.6 rebounds per game, 3.3 steals per game, and 1.1 blocks per game.
Another stat sheet stuffer.
Yes. Shot it well from deep. She was second team All-Ohio. Then you have Kylie Bruce, who is now going to be playing next year at Malone. 6.5 points per game, 4.7 rebounds per game, 1.3 blocks per game. She kind of was in like a rotation piece, but whenever they needed, a big stop late, she would be in defensively for them. That's why she's going to go play at Malone. She was special mention All-Ohio a year ago. Bailey Russell, 12.8 points a game, 54 made threes on 37% last year as a freshman. She also did a really good job defensively for them, so she's going to be a player to watch for on, I would think those numbers are just, maybe not the percentage goes up, but I would think that the other numbers are going to go up. Then you got Cam Barnett's, who 8.6 points per game, 37 made threes, 32% a year ago. Everything I'm seeing is she's putting in a lot of work and, looks like he's going to be trying to take the next step to fill in that point guard role of Tommy Hinkle. Then you had Addison Godby, 6.6 points per game, 5.9 rebounds per game, 2.8 assists per game, 2.9 steals per game. I believe that was all off the bench for them as a freshman a year ago. And then Issa Taliaferro. Yeah, we'll go with that. You got it. She averaged 4.3 points a game last year, but she also was coming off a knee injury. So this is going to be her first full year clear from that knee injury. So I would think that she's going to take another step. So Fairland's up their non-conference schedule. So like with them, Uniota and Portsmouth, those might be.
That's who I'm picking.
Yeah, those might be the 3 top teams in our coverage area, but I would guess that they're all going to have at least a couple losses this year because their non-league schedules are, turned up even more, which is what you got to do to be able to take that next step. So like Uniota wants to take that next step to the state. Fairland wants to take that next step to the state championship game and possibly hoisting that trophy. So I like the scheduling by these teams. And then, like you mentioned, for impact players, this is where I'm going to talk about the other team to watch, the Portsmouth Trojans. Somehow Sienna Arnold was not on a team last year on All-Ohio.
Yeah, that makes no
Special
sense.
mention All-Ohio, 19.2 points a game as a freshman. When you look at the rankings for the prospects and players in that 2026 class, Sienna Arnold and Miley Smith from Uniota are both in the top 5. Just really outstanding length she's got. She's probably a little better shooter than Smith. Smith's a little stronger at this point, but I see Arnold filling out. Is going to fill out and be just as strong pretty soon.
Arnold, she a little tall. She feels like she was taller and a bit longer than Smith.
Yeah, she's an outstanding overall player. Going to be awesome again this year.
We talked a little bit with her mom and dad. They sat right behind us at Waverly that day. Yeah, dropped to West.
Yeah. Then Dasha Reed, another one for Portsmouth, 14.9 points per game. She was honorable mention last year as a sophomore for Portsmouth. I'm completely blanking on the. I think it's a Cantrell, Savannah Cantrell. All I had to do was really think about it, and I would have had it. She's about 6'3" and
big.
shoots the lights out. Yeah. So you got a 6'3". I think she's a junior.
Was it that game against West where she made like 3 threes in the first half and then never shot another one?
Yeah, they just didn't get her any more shots.
I thought that may have been that game.
Yeah, so she's another outstanding player for them. The She Hoops Ohio has Portsmouth ranked as number 2 in Division 3 this year, as I think they are more than likely a favorite to make a run at the state tournament. And if it's not this year, it's next because.
Did Fairland stay in 2 or did they go back down?
Fairland's still 2.
Okay.
Not by much, but they're still 2.
I thought I could have swore I heard somebody say they went back down to 3, but.
No, they were right on the edge. So, so those are 2 big players to watch, and then Cantrell as well. So, Portsmouth, we're going to get very ahead of ourselves. What is today's date?
Isn't it like
January 2nd?
17th?
No, I think it's the 2nd.
Oh, is it?
Or no, it's 7th because you start school.
It's the 8th.
8th. Oh,
January 8th.
Man, this is a great segment. Just watching us try to figure out that date. Fairland at Portsmouth. We'll have it on SOSA.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, because that's going to be.
Whether it may not be as competitive as we're forecasting it to be, but the fan turnout should just be off the charts.
Yeah.
Now I know they typically, because I've talked. I can't remember their AD's name at this moment, but I've talked to him a couple of times, and typically they close off the visitor side. Well, I'm assuming it's the home side because they have second level on one side, and they close it off. They might have to open it up that day. They might have to because that might draw a little extra attention besides just Fairland and Portsmouth fans.
Yeah, that's going to be, the first one. The second one is in February, and then Fairland does their own stream.
Well, I'll be honest. Even if they didn't, I'm not sure I would make the trip to Proctorville. That's far.
Such a wuss. I drove to Texas and back in 5 days.
That's where I draw the line.
All right.
We're a little different.
Yeah.
But Fairland
built different.
Fairland does do their own, so we wouldn't be able to anyway. But
yeah. So then some more players to watch. Jalen Reisner from Rock Hill, 7 points and 9.1 rebounds per game last year. Lola Hankins, at Ironton now. 7.3 points a game, 39 made threes. She was at Rock Hill last year. Should make a big time difference for Ironton.
It would have been probably Rock Hill's best returning guard.
Yeah.
As Reisner is more of a forward or a center. And
then a couple players from Chesapeake who went 17-7 last year, kind of quietly. Sophie Hutchinson, who was a freshman last year, 18.7 points a game. She was honorable mention All-Ohio. And then Kate Ball, also from Chesapeake, 10.6 points per game, was also honorable mention. I believe I already mentioned that honorably. So, I mean, Chesapeake's going to be another one that it looks like they're going to be tough to beat as well. Like that league is loaded.
We might have to check out Chesapeake, whether it's maybe I know they probably play some of the SOC2 schools a little bit, or maybe at Portsmouth. We might have to check them out because I didn't realize they had a play. And Hutchinson was just a freshman, so I'd be interested to see how.
And Ball, I believe Ball was only a sophomore. So I mean, it looks like
could maybe be our first Chesapeake live stream in the history of SOSA.
Yeah, could be the OVC is going to be like kind of like what we talked about in football, where the OVC
is very
kind of like.
Well, like, yeah, you can't really, because, I mean, then Portsmouth knocks off Fairland in the playoffs, which I don't think anybody really saw that coming.
Well, then that's like, not even mention Gallia, the Blue Angels. Next week's show will be with the Blue Devils. So, it's I wouldn't say it's a wide open league because I think it's, the two teams at the top are probably going to separate themselves, but I think that Chesapeake team could be really interesting to follow. Rock Hill, I think, will still be solid.
How far away is Chesapeake from Chillicothe?
About the same as Proctorville.
Portsmouth? Oh, is it far?
Yeah,
that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Well, here's some stuff.
But we might be able to get there through Gallia. It might be a little quicker. I'm excited to hear what you're gonna.
Well,
I feel like this is the part of the show where everyone tunes in is when we just start looking up stuff on our computers to finish.
Well, so they only have Portsmouth on here once, which makes no sense. I feel like they should play Portsmouth twice.
They will.
Well, Max Preps only has Portsmouth once, so we'll wait to see where that second matchup comes in. But in terms of
our winter schedule will probably be updated by January, so we'll know that way.
But in terms of teams that are closest, they're at North Adams on January 13th.
Ooh,
which that could be an interesting game. They're home against South Webster, which sucks. Although I'm not really sure if we'd be able to go to South Webster anyway. Well, that North Adams game might be one that we look at because North Adams at the top of the SHAC typically, and then I guess I didn't realize Chesapeake had that good of a season last year.
I'm going to tell you when I found out about 1 p.m. today. I knew they had one really good player, but I didn't realize how solid of a season that they had. So, that could be one to look for.
17-7, and they finished 6th in the league, 8-6. Man, they went. What is that? 9-1.
Well, you might be looking at the. Are you looking on Max Preps?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's got some weird teams in it.
Oh, Shady Side.
Yeah, so they have the Ohio Valley Athletic Conference in there with some of those teams. Yeah, I was looking at that today too.
Bealsville, Toronto.
Oh, Toronto.
The Blue Jays.
Yeah, they should be. They're like the Red.
That's a missed opportunity.
Devils.
Oh, yeah, are they the Red Devils?
They might be.
Remember we were talking about that the other day.
No, that's St. Clairsville's, the Red Devils. Check out Toronto. I don't remember what they are. But they definitely were.
They're the Red something.
Yeah, I know.
I think it is.
Wolves?
Starts with a K.
Kangaroos?
You're not going to get it off of that hint.
Clowns?
It's a very not K sounding starts with K word. Knights.
I was going to say kaleidoscopes.
I'm just saying it starts with a K, but I mean, you wouldn't know that by pronouncing it.
Knights.
Knights.
Yeah. I watched them against Huntington in baseball when Huntington made it to the regional for the first time.
Yeah,
they were so good.
Let's just take a look. I will say the only thing I don't like about Portsmouth is those black jerseys they had against West. I thought were kind of weird. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
We're gonna have to get some binoculars or something to help.
And they were tough to read.
Yeah,
I mean they were cool, but just I think the numbers were the numbers black. Or were they
and it was
red
like with a red or blue outline.
Yeah, I don't know. They were kind of weird. So against Chesapeake last year, Portsmouth won 47-35 and 65-40. So they handled Chesapeake pretty handedly both times. Not as much as Fairland. Fairland beat them by 40, and
Fairland was just
by 42.
Yeah,
So
Fairland
they beat
was
'em by 82
so absurd
points.
last year, and I think they still had the chance to do it again. Like they're going to be really good. I mean, they're a well-coached team with, very.
I will say West only beat Chesapeake by 4 in the tournament, 51-47. So I think that North Adams Chesapeake game could be pretty interesting.
Let's go to Seaman. Let's go.
I haven't been there.
Yeah,
so
I
know
been
you
there.
have a bunch.
Yeah, if we go together, we'll go through 41 and go to the Amish store to get pretzel sandwiches.
For pretzel sandwiches?
Mm-hmm.
What is that? Like a pretzel bun sandwich? Or
Yeah.
Like a hamburger? Or
No, I don't know. They have a lot of stuff.
They better have.
I think they technically take cards now, which is very not not Amish.
Man.
But
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah,
I will say, is there like a candy or anything you get from Amish stores that's like your favorite? I feel like they all have kind of the same stuff. I know mine, 100%.
what is it?
Green licorice. It's like green apple licorice. They'll have like orange too, which is pretty good. But green apple licorice, like, man, I'd actually whack an entire bag of that.
So when we were in Galveston, Texas last week, we were down at this place called the Strand. So the Strand, no, it's a candy store.
Oh, okay.
But the Strand, which I've heard is a historic part of Galveston. There's buildings that have been there since the flood of 1900, and like they show how high the water was on it and all this stuff. I hadn't been there until 3 years ago, and my family's lived down there my entire life.
In Galveston?
Yeah. So we went to this famous candy store.
That's a very fancy looking... This place?
Yeah.
That's a very fancy looking candy store. That didn't look like Grandpa Joe's.
Yeah. So we go into this candy store, and like I look, and the first thing is like they have their chocolates behind glass and everything. And it's like, oh, $4.99 a piece. I'm like, all right, I'm not getting that. So then I'd look at something else and be like $8.99. Then they're like little scoops of ice cream were like $5. I'm like,
Oh my gosh.
I'm not going here. And then we walked down the street, and there was another place, another candy store. The same things that were like the same exact size were like $3 a piece. Yeah. And you should have seen how many more people were in the cheaper store.
Well, yeah. I mean, like Grandpa Joe's is pretty cheap. I mean, you can go in there and get a wide variety of stuff. I mean, they have a little thing in the back where it's like a little $5 box, and you can just load it up. So I don't go in there.
Do you get the rubber chicken? What is that thing?
They have rubber chickens?
They have a rubber chicken, like on the when you're driving down.
Oh, you mean like, and they have like toys and like knickknacks too.
Yeah.
But they don't have green licorice, which is kind of disappointing.
If you would have told me, I would look for it. And
I'm not paying $12.
Well, I could have got you some
at the cheap store.
I could have got you some green apple saltwater taffy or something.
Oh my gosh!
Although when I was in Cape May, New Jersey, 2 weeks ago, the saltwater taffy was a little.
It's not the most appetizing. See, that's kind of what it looked at me. It's just
it's gross looking.
It's just licorice that's green, kind of looks like snot or something.
Yeah, I'm not a big licorice guy, but I like it more than I used to.
Green apple flavored stuff. You know what I used to use? Green apple shampoo, 100%.
Would you try to get it in your mouth?
No, it didn't taste like.
But you just like
apple.
the smell.
It smelled good.
Yeah.
But it was like.
Was that like 2 weeks ago?
No, I couldn't
find any more.
I was in like middle school, but
right.
like then something came out about like Suave made your hair fall out or something, and I got scared. So now
really have to worry about your hair falling out at this point.
Now I just use like some coconut. Olay
Yeah. So
or
the last time I got my hair cut, which I'm not a big fan of at this point, the lady was like, "Oh, looks like you might want to start combing it this other way." Literally, the same woman the time before was like, "Man, you're not losing any hair." But I was like, "What?" So now I've been freaking out. I'm not losing any hair.
I think we look good.
Yeah, I have a great head of hair. That's what I was told at my brother's wedding by someone I'm probably related to. I don't know. Like, man, you got a great head of hair. I was one of like 6 people that wasn't
bald.
No, participating in the beverages.
Oh,
Because I don't know where to go down there. I knew I had to take my mom to one of my brother's houses. I had to go to another brother's house, and then I took my dad to another brother's house. Yeah. Nice. Yeah, they're all over the island. Yeah, and then I drive 21 hours back and fall asleep for 17 hours. So that's what happens when you don't have a real job.
All right. Well, I think that qualifies as our closing remarks on the girls basketball preview. Try to talk about each league a little bit in depth for each player, and just some teams we think could compete with the teams we pretty much chose to win the league. So I think we have a fun season ahead of us. Obviously, the boys episode will come out next Tuesday. I'm aiming for like an 8 a.m. release, but we'll see. It'll be sometime Tuesday. But
I believe the boys will start on Friday. Like the girls are starting on Wednesday because they're just like, I don't think there's games on Friday either this year. I think it's just pretty much Wednesday, Saturday. So some teams are playing 2 games, some teams are playing 1, some teams are playing none. I know on Wednesday I'm planning on getting to a game. I won't say where yet, just because I got to figure out where I'm coming from Thanksgiving to try to
go to Texas for Thanksgiving.
No, I'm not going to Texas for Thanksgiving.
You've gone to Texas for other stuff.
I have gone to Texas. I've gone to Texas twice in the last 3 months. So I went to Maryland, DC, Philly. I got a ticket in Philly. I blew a tire out on my way to Texas. If anyone wants to hire me, I need money. No, but I'll be at somewhere on Wednesday and then Saturday night, more than likely, because I would love to go down there for that Manchester day of games, but like I'm not gonna miss that. I'm not gonna miss that Buckeye game. Like,
nah, you can't. That's like the one day you just kind of have to lock it down.
Yeah,
I do that every Saturday.
But there's some games Saturday night, so I may go out for that. And then Sunday, I'm planning on going down and watching Uniota down at Cincinnati Sycamore. Should be a good game along Ronald Reagan Highway.
All right, well, I think that'll
and then we'll stream it next week.
Yeah, there we go. Next Friday, our first stream, Southeastern at Waverly. We'll probably
Waverly at Southeastern.
Whatever, Waverly at Southeastern.
We had to start at Southeastern every year.
We had 3rd straight year at Southeastern. Waverly at Southeastern. We'll talk a little bit more about that next Tuesday when we preview the boys' side of things for us here at Southern Ohio Sports Authority. But I think that is all we have on today's episode of SOSA Overtime, presented by McDonald's.